Few things affect people more than the topic of money. Yet we don't talk much about it. We trudge along and hope that things will work out, but never really know for sure. I think it's time for some answers. Hi, I'm Tom Stone, and welcome to Talking About Dollars and Sensibility. Today's show is brought to you by Guild Mortgage Company, closing loans and opening doors since 1960. We're located at 175 North Main Street, right here in Heber City. Our phone number is 435 654 9979. That's 654 9979. Certainly come by and see us. We're located right next to the car wash on Main Street, next to the Tate Building. Today, I'm actually going to have Sandy Mahoney with me today. And the reason for that is, at the very beginning, our first show, she actually was somewhat of a guinea pig for me as I asked her some questions, and we went through some of her situation and what she's been facing. And I asked her last week, I said, would you mind coming back on and we'll just kind of get an update to see how things are going, to see what's going on. Now, a couple things I want to just point out here first. This will be a show full of a bunch of questions. Now, I generally do ask a lot of questions and have people who can answer those with information. This is going to be one that I hope the questions are things that you, the listeners, would answer on your own as Sandy gives hers. And so this truly is going to be one specifically for you, and you can really determine where you're at as well with finances in particular. So, Sandy, welcome to your own radio station.
Is my mic up? Sounds like it is.
It is.
Oh, awesome.
Yep, we're good to go.
You're so good. Thank you.
No, thank you. Nice to have you. It's always fun because most of the time, the people that have been on this show, it's their first time ever to be on radio. In fact, I think almost everybody, if not one or two. And I have to kind of calm their nerves. I have to say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And so this time, I don't have to do that.
No. I'm kind of old-handed.
You're a little comfortable at this, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's also fun because it's live radio. Sandy had her cargo kaplunk and called me and said, I'll get there as soon as possible.
Jeez, it's just one of those things. We had the starter motor slowly dying. We finally got it fixed on Saturday, and which was great. And guess what? Now we have the fuel filter go.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
that's
life. You know,
life
is like that. Yeah.
One thing after another. So, again, I'm just going to throw out some questions. And what's fun about live radio, especially all the shows I've done, specifically this one, there's absolutely no script. None whatsoever.
That's the fun part, right?
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
I have written down some questions I want to ask, but I'm going to do a little repeat.
Okay.
Just kind of like have people catch up if they didn't hear that first show. Now, there's a series of questions that if anyone ever comes into Guild Mortgage and talks to me, they don't necessarily know I do this per se, but at the same time, I've had people come in and say, I want to go through that, please, and I make it kind of more of a situation. Here's the questions. I ask somebody, which I'll ask Sandy again, what do you want? Why do you want it? How will you get there? Who is going to help you get there? When are you going to start? And where will it eventually take you? Now, last question is supposed to take you back up to what do you want eventually. Also, I found in that process, the question of what do you want, it changes a little bit, fine-tunes itself over time. So let's just get right to it. Sandy, I'm going to ask you that question again. What do you want?
Well, I remember when you asked me that first time, it was like a trip to Paris.
Yep, you want a trip. I remember that.
And Paris is always, ever since I took French in high school, I always wanted to go to Paris, especially because I'd like to be an artist. Let me put it that way. I haven't spent the time. I've done a little painting, and I hear the light in France is beautiful, and I have noticed something about light. It's an amazing, this earth to me is a miracle.
Absolutely.
And that evening light that you get just in the morning, you know how bright it is when it comes through the window, or if you're up and out, it's just an invigorating thing. That light just seems to lift my soul. I'm sure I'm not the only one in the world to heights that you think, okay, I can take on the day. Carpe diem, take on the day. Anyway, at night, there is an hour before sunset. They call it the golden hour because everything does have a golden hue to it. If there's a fire, it really has a golden hue.
You bet.
But I hear the light in France is really amazing, and that's one of the things the artist is looking for I think everybody's seen Thomas Kincaid's paintings where he really, really focuses on light.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I wanted to experience that. I have kind of changed in just the short time we've been doing this, maybe 5 months now, 5, 6 months. I have rediscovered that my family is my true joy. And so, my children, their children.
That sounds very
boring.
Well, no, duh,
Oh,
and
yeah,
boring.
boring.
Why would that be such a discovery for you?
Well, I kind of knew it before, except I found that this trip to Paris is not what I really, really want. What I really want is to be with my family and take them somewhere that it's, oh, wow, look at that, Grandma, or, oh, wow, look at that, Mom, or, babe, look at that, my husband, whatever. So we can discover I'd love to go someplace and discover things together as an entire family. To me, that would be probably really cool, and that's kind of where I'm going.
Okay, so I was writing certain words down as you were talking.
Okay.
And light was a word that you mentioned. You also mentioned discover.
Yeah.
And those two are pretty cool words. I'm gonna focus on discover. The discovery process is something that should be ever ongoing. As soon as you stop that, you will start going backwards, not have light, and you will have a feeling. And yes, we're going to talk about money on this show, but we're going to focus on how money and emotion are so tied.
They're entwined.
Absolutely. And the discovery process. You discovered something. There's another thing that it's so fun. We didn't even practice this.
No.
Because I did write this down because I want to make sure I made a point that most of the time, the discovery process that people go through when I ask these questions and they spend some time looking through and pondering upon it, most of the stuff that they discover is right under their nose.
Ah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But they're so quick and they're so in a hurry, they think it's over there, so they start looking way over there and assume, certainly the cliches of grass is greener, and everyone else doesn't have problems, but I do, all those things.
Right.
And then when they can slow down, process some of these particular questions, realize, that's another important word, not everybody, I can't say everybody's this way, but many people, like yourself, have fun, find that what they're looking for is right under their nose.
Right.
How do you feel about that statement? Is
I
that a true statement?
agree with you, yeah. I thought it was, 3,000 or 4,000 miles away in France, and it wasn't. It's half of them is now back in Idaho, but
because they've been at your house for the last little while.
Yeah, for last week, and Mark's family and all of us being together, whatever just kind of happened, whatever. It was just awesome. Yesterday we went up to the cemetery, and to me it was so rewarding, I guess is the word, even though my car died. It kind of sputtered there, and we got it home. Anyway, to have everybody there and to watch my son-in-law, my daughter-in-law be part of the involvement, along with their children and my children, to talk about people who are gone and what their life was like, what we remember about them, why they're special to us. And my daughter-in-law has just buried her brother a month ago. So this was really difficult for her, still is. And so the kids are seeing the grieving process through their aunt and their mom. And so, I think to discover what life is really about and why it's so precious, it's intertwined. And it's so funny because you would never think that money is that important, but it is. It intertwines with everything because it gives us. We all think we have to be millionaires to do what we want. So wrong. And usually it's because we got those blinders on. They put on horses, You
know what's fun is that I spent the last few days on a trip. My son went on a senior trip, and actually he invited me, his dad, and his grandpa.
How cool.
It was cool. And his grandpa was my father-in-law that actually went. And over that trip, my father-in-law made a comment. He's been in finance. He's done stocks and bonds with Merrill Lynch for 35 years. He retired 2 years ago now. And he said twice, he goes, it feels so good to be out of debt. And he's done well, not crazy well, but he's done fine. He's retired now. My dad, on the other side, he also has made that phrase. My dad has done well. He's done fine, but not crazy wealthy by any means. And he's made the same comment. It just feels good not to have that debt chasing you.
Yeah.
So when we think we have to be millionaires
Yeah.
to get what we want, realize there is, we can't buy a house cash. We got to get a loan.
Yes.
Cars probably the same and those kind of things. So I'm not a guy that says debt's evil. It has a purpose and a time
Right.
and a time frame.
Right.
But it's just fun to hear. So the goal really is to find a place where you don't have somebody chasing you around. I also think that when you have that kind of a feeling, you can enjoy family gatherings better.
Those things that you were right under your nose. Like
you can
said.
enjoy Memorial Day weekend and ponder upon those who have gone before. And by the way, I'm gonna come back to this, but we went to New York and Washington D.C. That's where my son Tate wanted to go.
Oh wow.
And over this weekend, we were in Arlington Cemetery, and so we were there
Wow.
and saw a few of the Unknown Soldier presentation. And let me tell you what, that was quite the experience.
I'll bet.
So that was certainly my favorite Memorial Day
Yeah.
situation. That was just wonderful. I just got in a couple days ago. So
Wow.
what do you want? How about that? Now, I think you've kind of covered this, but we got to be specific with these questions. Sometimes when we answer questions, we give an answer and we think we're done. If you really
Not when
really
you
do it
got my
right,
burned.
you ask a question and it generally leads to another question and leads to another question before you really get to the core
That's
answer.
true. Because
know?
we bury it.
You bury it, especially if you haven't done this. If you've been burying for a long time, it might take a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So I want to run to why do you want it? Now again, you've half answered this a little bit,
Right.
but it still is something that we need to discover. So why did it change from I want to go to Paris and paint to I like I like the sun coming in my window, even here in the Heber Valley, and I like the sunsets, and I like to do it with my family.
Hmm.
Tell me why it changed.
I guess I started seeing things through my granddaughter's eyes. My grandson's too small yet. He's only
Oh.
9 months old. But my granddaughters, I'm seeing things through their eyes and their wonder and their delight at simple things that we take for granted. And
Mm.
I think sometimes it takes a child's point of view
Mm-hmm.
to get us back to that discovery, like you were talking
Mhm.
about. And after seeing that, it not only enlightened me to what they were thinking, but it tied me to their little hearts even more.
Hmm.
I mean, I thought I was tied as close as you can get, but when you discover something together,
Mm-hmm.
there is a bonding that takes place. And that's why I would like our whole family, not my whole family, my husband's, he's part of this process. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes we say my this, and I'll never forget my son-in-law. Somebody was asking my daughter about, she goes, oh, these are my daughters. And he goes, well, they're mine too.
You bet.
And I thought, and she says, yeah, you're right. It should be, they're our daughters.
Yep.
And I thought, yeah, it is
Mhm.
our family. And
Mhm.
so lucky. I came here 37 years ago to this valley, had
Mhm.
a friend who was
Mm-hmm.
from here, and I fell in love with the place before I ever met
Mhm.
my husband. Partly because of the light. Because I was
Mhm.
living in Provo at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it took till about 10 o'clock for the sun to get over
Mm-hmm.
the mountain.
You bet.
And but here, that she lived up in Center Creek, and I'll never forget waking up to that morning sun, just hitting you right in the face early in the morning, and thinking how invigorating
Mm-hmm.
it is to have that light wake you up. So
I'm smiling again because, again, we didn't practice this, but I did write a couple notes to myself to make sure I brought up, and I wanted to write, I wrote down seeing, and you just said those very words. You said seeing things through a child's eyes, through someone else's eyes. Yours was
Yeah.
happened to be a child. Very cool. Now, the comment I want to make about that is, certainly when we see the same things every day, we go to work every same place, same time,
mhm.
you start kind of just you got your little route you take and you take care of things and you stop seeing. And in fact, I think it's maybe more of a verb where you stop looking.
I think you're right.
You might be seeing something in front of you, but you're not looking.
It's not registering in your brain.
Yep. Now again, I'm going to remind you and me, this is a show on money. And I know that, but I'm going in this direction on purpose because, money is supposed to fulfill certain needs
Yeah.
that we have. And there's some things that money doesn't have to. Or money allows, if you handle it correctly, then this other stuff works correctly for you.
Right.
So, little station break. I was told by Sandy, who's the one in charge, I got to do station identification every about 15 minutes. So
Mhm.
she's sitting right in front of me. I better do this right. You're listening to 1340 KTMP, your hometown radio station, and today's show is brought to you by Guild Mortgage Company. Your loan on time, every time.
Now, I need to correct you.
Uh-oh. What'd I miss?
You need to say Heber City because this is the city of license, they call it.
Got it.
So that means this is where our license is tied to. You learn a whole bunch of new words and new ways to put them together when you deal with the government.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, and we are in Heber City.
Yeah, we are.
How are you going to get there? So in other words, so we've covered the intangible. I've used that word a lot in the last few shows as well. Important. Maybe I'm going to ask the question differently. I'm going to say, how have you gotten there over the last 6 months or so? Now there's still some getting. You've got some stuff to do. We're not done. So I don't mean to make this
No.
as a you're finished question,
No.
but but it is a follow up to see from December 3rd, really is when we started, till May 27th. How have you gotten there?
Yeah, I think I have realized because of you a few things. How I deal with money and how my husband deals with money are different. And partly because we were raised. He was raised with any debt is really bad news. And with me, it was like, get the debt and then try to figure out how to pay for it. That was my family's way of doing things. So you can see the clash of the titans was coming.
Absolutely.
Anyway, but I've realized that money is not the goal. Freedom is the goal. And if you have paid everything off and out of debt, you get that freedom. Truly, being in debt is a form of bondage.
Absolutely.
Because it weighs on your mind, intangibly perhaps, but it nevertheless weighs on your mind. So I have learned that it is not the money I want, it's the freedom. And so I have also learned, because of you, that step by step, you can handle things. And, the old adage, you can eat an elephant a bite at a time. So I've been chewing on this elephant bite at a time, and I guess seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. But because of that, I guess, I hate to use the word, but it's really relevant, is revelation. Because of that revelation, possibilities have become endless, and they have started to happen. And that's the most amazing thing. When you take those blinders off and start looking at what you really want, things start happening almost immediately. And you think, wait a minute, this could have happened before, but you miss these little nuances that make those things possible. It's the weirdest thing, but it's true. Ooh, throw things around anyway.
Well put, by the way. Step by step. So let's address that a little more. For those of us who are impatient people. I don't know
And
if
you're looking at a very impatient
okay.
person.
So how does an impatient person realize step by step?
I guess the plan to find what you want and then focus. And see, that's been my problem. My husband tells me if there's an emergency, I go off in all directions at the same time. And so when you focus things, all your energy gets focused on being free and how to accomplish being free. Things start happening because you start realizing your possibilities that you didn't see were available to you before because you weren't looking for them.
Yep.
That's part of the deal, is looking
How
for them.
simple, huh?
Yeah. It sounds like it, but
It's too simple.
not.
If they're a realist listening right now,
Yeah.
they're saying this just can't be.
Yeah. That's what they're saying. That's what I said 6 months ago. When you
Well.
said, well, Sandy, you can do this, this, and this. And I thought, nah. And you said, what do you want? I thought, trip to Paris. You focused my mind on that trip. And then from there, I started realizing, it's just doing certain things to get the money to go do it. It's not an impossible, forever impossibility. And I think we put things out here and say, I want this, but it's going to be impossible for the rest of my life, which is not true. And we put that chain on ourselves, which is really crazy.
I also want to add that this discovery is something that's also in you. So having some questions asked and just letting your mind go with it. See, we're used to saying, when a question's asked, if I'm asking the question and you're giving an answer, you're going to look for me to correct you as soon as possible or to tell you what you should have said.
Oh, yeah.
We can't do that.
Why is that?
We can't, but that's how that's how it is. That's how school works for the most part. Not
I
every
guess you're
teacher's
right,
that
yeah.
way, but that's how school works for the most part.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a question or have an answer to this? Anyway, that's fine, but it should have been this. Anyway, we'll move on. It's like, they're like, oh, okay.
Oh, I was wrong.
Oh, I was wrong. Or I should have started thinking that way.
Yeah.
When if you allow truly yourself and your kids and your family, what I call processing time.
So true.
So this whole concept of things are right under your nose, I could have said, Sandy, you don't need to go to Paris. Your family's right in front of you. Why don't you just appreciate what you've got already? That would not have worked.
No, I would have felt another chain encumbering my
Yep.
heart to go to Paris.
That's right. I would have pushed you away. No question about it. You got to do that. Let's see. Who is going to help you is the next question, or who has helped you and who can help you?
Well, I got to say, once you sparked that discovery in my mind, thank you again for that.
You bet.
I found out that I have all the keys. And now, of course, my husband and I are partners in so many things, not only in our relationship, in our family, but in this business. We're partners in everything we do. Some people say, how can you stand being partners? Well, we do have some loud conversations, but because we're both Irish. He carries the last name that's Irish, but I got as much Irish blood in and I got some German in there, which is kind of scary because we really are stubborn. But anyway, I found that when you're a partner with somebody, you do need to include them and vice versa.
Yep.
And he's been very inclusive with me, and I've been the one that's been shutting that down, and I don't know why. I think, like you said, we get so used to figuring our response is wrong. We start shutting door after shutting door after, and then pretty soon you're all this little teeny cell, and you're not going anywhere. When you start opening those things to your mind, then you start opening them physically to you as well, which is kind of we've all heard of those people who were incarcerated for whatever reason during war, especially that one I'll never forget in Germany during Second World War, and he was put in Auschwitz. And when they came and relieved the camp of the German people, the ones who were holding hostage, they said, "Oh, you must have been here a short time. You look healthy and happy." And he said, "No, I've been here 8 years." And he spoke 5 languages. That's why they kept him alive, because he could interpret. The thing was, after he got over there killing his wife and children, he realized that he wanted to die, and then he realized he was already dead then. And so then he started seeing other people's needs. When we start serving others, we discover something in ourselves. And I think, and this sounds really preachy, but it's not. It's just my own self-discovery. When you start serving others, you find your true self.
Well, I'm going to take another comment you made earlier. You said you started seeing things through someone else's eyes.
Yeah.
That's the true service, actually, when you can see it through someone else's eyes.
Well, that's true, I guess. That's empathy.
So it's just interesting, again, so let me just give the mathematical equation to this conversation.
Okay.
So if money is looked at as freedom, then freedom allows processing time and allows discovery time, and all of a sudden these things that are inside you that you already had, and I believe everybody does already have it, it's just a process of discovery.
Right.
They start finding these things, and inevitably most of them become philosophical.
Yeah.
or anything in between of spirituality or anything else like that. And so again, I'm reminding you and me and everyone else, yes, I know this is a money show, but money is so tied to emotion.
It is.
And that's the point we're making. So you explain things very well. The other thing I want to point out on this, who is going to help you. So most of the shows that we've had the last few months, I've had these individuals come in and we've covered taxes, we've covered estate planning, we've covered self-employment, we've covered vehicle purchases, we've covered certainly mortgage financing, and on and on and on.
And business. The one
Business.
we didn't get taped.
Didn't
We
get
both
recorded.
wanted so bad. Because,
Yeah, Marilyn Porter, she was awesome. She told us how to keep on rolling. By the way, she kept looking. The reason she was successful in business is because she could look past her problems right now. We asked her, by the way, what happens when you lose an account? And she says, my husband calls it backfill. You just fill them with other accounts. You get some other ones. What happens when an employee leaves that you've trained? Well, you say, whoops, I wish that wouldn't have happened, and go find someone else. And you keep moving forward. That was the most magical business concept.
Isn't that the truth?
And she is very successful. She's done it well. It hasn't been easy for her.
And I can add to that, when you have to make a difficult decision, the sooner you get to it, the better it is.
That's the next one. I am actually going to bring that up. It's been so fun.
We did not rehearse this.
It is so fun to watch the last few months. That's why I was excited to have you come back on. The who, though, is critical. Yeah. It truly is. And I don't mean sometimes because it is, people become frozen because, well, who do I trust? I don't know who to trust, so I don't do anything.
Right.
And understandable. I'm in the same situation with my wife's wedding ring, by the way. The diamond fell out.
Oh, no.
And supposed to go take it in every 6 months and get it cleaned. We were 3 weeks off, and they said, too bad for you.
Oh, you're kidding.
And I've been going through this process like, well, I thought I could trust them. Now, rules are rules and all those kind of things. But on top of some other things, it's like, what? How come that happened? You know, why didn't they blah, 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 blah. We were off 3 weeks, and couldn't they understand this and everything else? Anyway, I purposely have brought in the individuals on this show because I've been in the financial business, especially in the Heber Valley, for 20 years. And I have said, I like that person, and that person's not my style, and that person's maybe not quite the one I could trust, but this is one. That one I can trust. That one I can listen to. That one I know I can send my clients to, and they will thank me because not only to help with my mortgage, but I can send them to my friends to do all these other aspects. And that's how this whole idea started was over these 20 years, people come and ask me all sorts of questions. Well, I can do their mortgage financing, and I can talk about how to buy a home and refinance and build and those kind of things. But when it came to taxes, I do read taxes because I have to, but I certainly am not somebody who is an accountant and understands. So I had to find people I trusted. The who is critical. Now, if you find one person you can trust in the financial industry, I mean truly trust, then use the referral system.
Yeah.
Then say, I need something, and it may be that you take two. But there is a feeling to it too. When you finally can say, okay, I can let my guard down a little bit.
Yeah. And
find that person who's going to listen to me and what I want. That's what's so fun about it is if you go in and they have a plan already set for you and they stick you into that one and move you on. And I'm sorry, that's how big business works.
Yeah.
And there's some big business that I'm a fan of, but it's hard to get that personal touch. So it's kind of fun to be in this small town, and all these financial guys are affiliated with big business.
Yeah.
So you get the advantages of the big boys' numbers and such, and even all the information they have with the small town one-on-one feel.
To it, yeah.
So the who is probably the most critical. It's right in the middle of this. You know, what do I want and why do I want it is self-discovery. How will you get there? And then the who, maybe it should be who and then how. I don't know. Because how you get there. The other thing is on this who that I've made a point is that if you haven't done it yet, then you won't do it on your own.
Obviously.
And then you say, well, I'll get around to that. I'll do my own this. I'll do my own that. But if you haven't done it yet, I'm going to say odds are, I guess there might be that person who might. But you get excited for a day or something. And then I've also found, let someone who's done it over and over and over again with thousands of people, let them give you the little, because it's always the smallest little thing that you wished you'd known. And I've had people for myself that come in and they study on the internet all over the place. They come in and they want to like just, they don't trust me yet. They're from out of town. They don't know whatever. And they just come in and they have all these documents and questions, and they ask me other questions. And they've done some great research. But inevitably, they've missed one or two very small and important things that I go, now that's very good that you studied that, but in this valley, this particular loan works better for this particular situation. Have you considered that? And I always leave it to them to decide. But the who...
Smart with that, smart.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be comfortable
Yep.
if you tell them what to think and how to feel.
That's exactly right. I still have to be very sensitive to them and their discovery.
Right.
I can't go in and say, you don't need to go to Paris. Your family's right here.
And so you wouldn't...
What's your problem?
It's so true. If you'd have said that to me, it would have been another door slamming.
Yep.
But, yeah. But like you said, there are some people you can trust and you can tell that. But that also helps you understand when you have people in your life or people that you come in contact with. You know, 6 months ago, I would have said, oh, you're fine at this. But now I'm saying, no, I realize this is not going to work for me because this is not in line with
with your plan.
Yeah, what the plan is.
It's kind of fun to have a plan, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I used to hate that word because I always failed at planning really badly. So I thought, ugh. But no, you're right. You know, fail to plan, plan to fail, all those little things that you think are just really So, what do we used to establishmentarianism? That's what we used
Yes.
to. That word we
Good
used
word.
to throw around all the time when I was growing up. I
You
was
bet.
kind of a rebel, but I wasn't a hippie, but I did have some hippie generating thoughts. I'll say.
You got a colorful shirt on right now.
Thank you.
Little tie-dye feel to it.
Yeah, kind
I like it. So just to finish up on the who, that one's the critical part. I believe. Get to the right who, to know what they're doing, have the experience, and have someone refer to them.
Yeah.
Here's my experience,
Yeah.
and here's one or two of them, so you can get your own feel.
And you've done. You ought to start Tom's list instead of Angie's
Yeah.
list, because you do have a good list of
I do.
people to refer to.
I do, and that's not a bragging thing. I truly have over 20 years went, I like the way that guy does it. I don't like the way that lady's, that didn't work out. I'm never necessarily saying something, even, they don't even have to be dishonest. Everyone thinks it has to be he's good or he's bad, or honest or dishonest. It isn't always that. It's just, they don't quite see the big picture for this particular client. And they're not listening to the client for what they want.
Yep.
They say, here's the three things I know really well. Especially in the mortgage industry. I got to say this story. I just picked up a loan. By the way, in business, it's good to be second. And people say, what does that mean? Well, second is someone's gone somewhere else. They've had a bad experience. They come to you, and then you save the day. And you're like the best there ever was.
Yeah, no
If you're
kidding.
first, they don't know really how good it could be.
That's
okay.
right, that's right.
So
Or how
to be
bad
seconds,
it could be.
to be seconds is not a bad place to be.
That's right.
So I had that happen. Somebody went to another place for their loan and got declined. And I got a phone call from the agent that said, hey, my client just got declined. We're like a week away from closing.
Jeez.
And this and this and that and that. Well, I said, it sounds like I could help. Let me get some information. And then I talked on the phone, and I said, sounds like I can help. I need your paperwork. Let's take it the step. And I got their paperwork, and it's funny because the loan officer they went to probably just has two or three things that they know really well. And they try to plug them into those two or three things.
Oh.
Well, it was the fourth thing that worked perfect for these people. And not only that, it saved him $250 a month.
Oh,
He was trying to
wow.
put him in an FHA loan on the FHA. But guess what? Conventional, that doesn't always work. But conventional, which is no mortgage insurance on this particular situation. So they were like, they still are like, okay, we want to make sure this is for real because this is too good to be true.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun, though, that that can happen. So I'm going to go to the when. Are you going? No, I'm not. Station identification. I got to do that.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go for it.
You are listening to KTMP 1340 in Heber City, Utah.
And the show is sponsored by Guild
Mortgage.
Mortgage Company.
Yep. There you go.
I'll do the Heber C from now on, I
There
promise.
you go. Sounds good.
And then just for those who are just picking up, the show today is on money, of course, and how it affects us emotionally,
Yeah.
and how we take ourselves through a process or have someone help us through a process of their own discovery to that money.
There you go.
So we started out with what do you want? Why do you want it? How will you get there? Who is going to help you? And the next question is, when are you going to start? Now, you made a point a couple minutes ago. You said something about this, and then when I said, hey, can you drop off an invoice to me?
Mm-hmm.
I need to pay for my advertising. And you made a comment to me. Remember in the hallway, you said, I've decided to, what was it?
I decided to do it now, to get it done now so I don't forget it. So you don't have time to forget. If you take care of something once,
Mm-hmm.
the paper that's in your hand, you take it to, and my husband keeps telling me this,
Yep.
I'm finally learning it. If you take that paper and finish whatever it needs to be done with it before you put it down, then you have just eliminated one more thing on your head,
Mm-hmm.
and one more worry, and one more, and we don't realize how we pile things up on
Yep.
ourselves.
And then they get lost and forgotten, and you
yeah.
meant to do it.
Yeah.
You're not trying to say you're not important.
No. But yeah, it was easier to just do it and be done.
That was fun. I'm like, well, hello. And you're like, I decided to get it done right now.
Yeah, you're kind of like, wow, here you are.
Look at you. Look at you now.
Easy to do. But you know what? The now, I've already started
Mm-hmm.
the process. And I find that my husband will say to me, well, you were supposed to do that, weren't you? And I said, yeah, I was, babe. And he says, well, are you going to do it now? And I think, yeah. And then sometimes I think, no. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it now. And he'll say, long pause. And I said, I'm trying to be honest in my dealings,
Mm-hmm.
which means
There you
that
go.
if you're not going to do it, you say you're not going to do it,
Uh-huh.
which is a big deal. Because
Yep.
most of us say, oh, I'll do it, and then they don't. What does that do? That compromises yourself.
There's an expectation that
Yeah.
didn't get fulfilled.
Right.
And you meant to do it, but you didn't get around to it, and something
But
else
you
came
didn't
up.
meant to do it. You
But
knew
you
you weren't going to. That's the thing. If you're honest with yourself, you realize, I'm not going to do that. And if I say that, then we can deal with how to take care of the problem if I'm not going to do it, or how to make sure that I do it.
Yep.
One of the two.
Yep.
Because that's helping the solution come up to the top. Because if you're not part of the solution, what are you? Part of the problem.
That's right.
I've been on the problem side for a lot of years. I need to get on the solution side anyway.
I've noticed it's so fun to watch, though. It's so fun to watch. As you did, I'm like, it's just so cool to watch people in their self-discovery process.
Yeah.
And again, if someone ever thanks me, I literally start with questions, and then I sit back and watch you go and do it. And every now and again, just certainly encouragement.
Yeah.
But it's so fun at the end of the day. At the end of the day, every client I've ever had that's gone through this process, which is most, they say, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. And too many times, those of us who are trying to help want to get more credit than what we're due, maybe, and we try and we get in their way.
Yeah.
That's where the advice comes in, where you say, if you just do this, that's getting in their way.
Yeah, it is.
Get out of the way. Let them ponder and process. The other thing I've learned is I've yet to meet, and there might be somebody out there, but I have yet to meet someone who, if they're doing something wrong or not quite right, they don't need to be reminded.
No kidding.
They don't need to be told.
We hate being nagged. I got to say, those of us who do things poorly, we hate being nagged. Oh, golly.
Nobody needs to be reminded.
No, but encouragement goes a long way.
It does.
I mean, what you did in December when you encouraged me to kind of change my thinking without really telling me that you were encouraging me to change my thinking did cost you nothing. Mm-hmm. And yet it was a key to me. And I mean, you're certainly human. You're not a saint, but just that little bit. And sometimes we have people that we know that are encouragers, and they help us to discover the best parts about ourselves, because it's there.
Absolutely.
Everybody has.
Absolutely.
And I've been looking at my grandchildren, especially since they were all together, and watching their different personalities. And if you believe that people are just a blank slate when they come here, you're missing it.
Yep.
Because they come with who they are.
Yep. And
you see that in the same family, how different they are. And I know birth order has something to do with it, but still, you see this person is like this. I mean, even from a baby, I see little Wesley. He's our grandson, and how he reacts to things. He does not want covers on his feet, and he will do anything to get them off of there. And he's 9 months old, and yet when he wants something, you'll see him crawl across that floor till he gets what he wants. He's just so fun to watch him. And I think, we're all like that. And I have been watching other people discover themselves, and how fun it is to watch.
And then encourage them.
Yes. And how fun it is to encourage them. You're right.
And I'm going to remind ourselves for the 6th time or the 7th time, yes, this is about money.
Yeah.
This is absolutely about money. If you look at money, now the question I'm going to bring it up now, because the question at the end I'm going to ask again is, so what is your relationship with money?
It's not adversarial anymore. And it was adversarial. I remember thinking, and this sounds so backward, but when you're honest with yourself, you start discovering. One of it was, my husband would tell me, when I have money in my hands, it burns a hole in my pocket. Do you know why? Because to me, money was evil. I don't know. Well, I do know why, but money to me was evil. And until I realized that's how it was, and I was trying to get rid of it, my husband's thinking, no, keep it, babe. I didn't realize what my relationship to money truly was. And it's an adversarial relationship. I hate it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it. Here, you can take the money. And I even remember saying this once, and this is so awful to admit, once to one of my employees, oh, golly, we're making good money. What am I going to do? And they looked at me like, are you crazy, Sandy? What do you mean? What are you going to do? And I thought, and I listened to myself and thought, what is going on here? But until I went through this self-discovery thing, I didn't really, it's been I got to say, my husband has been one of those who's helped me on a lot of, a long trip that I've been traveling and self-discovery. And I think, wow, when we're honest, we discover things, but that gives us the key to freedom.
Yep.
And money to me has been a way to attain that freedom
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't realize it could be a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have to be an adversarial thing. It could be a tool.
So if it was adversarial, how would you describe it now? Your relationship with money now, today, is?
It's not white, it's not black, it's not right, it's not wrong. It just simply is. And you use it as a tool to obtain the thing that you want the most, which is freedom, and to have my family together when when we all want to be together. We don't want to live under, as Larry's dad used to say, under each other's armpits. But we want to be able to be interactive when we want to,
Mm-hmm.
and be able not to have money be the thing that prohibits that, but
Mhm.
encourages that.
You're good. I like that.
Oh, well, thank you.
I want to ask you another question. Have you seen or noticed or been involved in a situation where someone who is so frugal, so tight,
Mhm.
that money eliminates freedom on the opposite side of things?
Yeah, I have, and it's to most people who watch it, they think, "Are you serious?" I
Mhm.
mean, we've all seen The Millionaire Miser.
Mm-hmm.
Who There's a reason they're a millionaire. And that's
Mhm.
because they hold every dollar they ever. And we see people who have. A good friend of mine. I'll tell you his name, Jay Winter Smith. He happened to be the grandson of, the grandnephew of Joseph Smith.
Hmm.
And he gave me my patriarchal blessing a long time ago in California. Anyway, he was an engineer. They had no children, he and his wife. And when he was 70 years old, he said, "I don't want to have money anymore. I want it to be gone." So he gave all his money to charities or to people he thought deserved it. He had zero in his bank account. He said the freedom was amazing that he felt, because it no longer, when you have a lot of money, it can run you.
Yeah.
And I think so many people who have become wealthy have realized it can be such a burden at the same time, because that money manages them, the people get to manage their money, and then you end up with this total preoccupation with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be not a good thing. It can be an opposite from freedom is bondage, and that's what it can do.
So we as people try and look for the answer, and I've noticed that it's mostly on, people think it's on us side.
Yeah.
So am I supposed to be this, or am I supposed to be that? Am I supposed to do this or that? On the, which side am I supposed to be on? And the whole trick here, well, trick's the right word, the whole discovery, we're using that word a lot, here is balance,
Yeah.
especially in a marriage.
So true.
When you have two ends of the spectrum, and you got to come together on what you really want, what your plan is.
Yes.
But the balancing act. Now back, I'm going to finish with this. So on this, so when are you going to start? Rather than ask the question, I'm going to make the statement. So every day, I'm going to recommend this to you, and anyone who's listening. When are you going to start is another day that you have to answer that question. To say, I'm going to do that today. I'm going to get on that now.
Yeah.
It isn't a one and done deal. And
the sun comes up, it should be a new
whole new day.
inspiration. Yeah.
My to-do list. I'm going to get some things done.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this on a few shows ago, but my grandfather, who just passed away a few months ago, we called him Grandpa Pug. His last name was Pugmeyer, and his nickname was Pug all growing up. So Grandpa Pug. I asked him one time, I said, "Grandpa," it was just he and I at a little family gathering, and he's sitting down waiting for his hamburger like me, and I was having a lot of stress and anxiety over work and making all the paying the bills and those kind of things, and then just life in general. I said, "How did you deal with stress and anxiety? How did you deal with it?" He has a lot of kids, and he he worked for Amical Oil, traveling a lot, and
Oh wow.
and he's done a lot of things, been a lot of things, and he looked at me, and if you ever knew this, my Grandpa Pug, he would smile right now, because you're like, "Yep, that's him." He goes, "I don't know, I've never felt it."
Oh golly, really?
Yeah, I said.
Wow.
He goes, "I woke up every day, and I worked really, really hard, and at the end of the day, I knew I'd given it all I had, and I slept pretty well, and I knew the things I didn't get to, I'll try to get to tomorrow." And he wasn't joking.
Yeah.
He never. I mean, this guy was always pleasant. He was always happy. He was
he
always.
had the answer to begin with.
He did. I think he was born with it. I don't know how that happened. I have not inherited that just yet. I still worry and have anxiety over things. But I thought, wow.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, you do the best you can, you work really hard, and then you go to sleep saying, "I've done the best I can, and the stuff you didn't get to, it'll be there tomorrow." And I've seen him where if someone didn't like the way he did something, he would be like, well, that's, he was never rude about it, but he's like, well, that's too bad. You know, oh,
He
okay.
shed that. He
yeah.
shed that emotion right
Okay.
away. He's
He's like, that's
amazing.
fine. He says, you can have your opinion. That's fine.
Oh, wow.
And he did it with a smile and a handshake.
How wise he was.
And he would just move along.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And I got to tell you, too, he also had an experience where with money in retirement, earlier retirement, he invested it with somebody and lost it all.
Oh,
That
wow.
person took it, and so he had that experience.
Yeah.
I only heard that from my mother. I never heard it from him, by the way. And his lifestyle didn't change either.
Yep.
Because he lived fairly simply, but he also did some nice stuff.
Wow.
All right. So this is still the final question I'm going to run past you is the one that's still yet to be, in a sense. Well, I'll let you answer it. I don't want to lead it. I'm not going to lead this question. Where will it take you? So what do you want? Why do you want it? How will you get there? Who is going to help you? When are you going to start? And where will it eventually take you?
Where will it will take me? My goal is it'll take me to happiness. That's where I want to be, is happy. That's where I think we all want to be, happy.
Mm-hmm.
And those of us who don't want to be happy need some therapy, I guess.
You bet.
But, you get therapy in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's therapy is going to Broadhead Meadows for 2 weeks. To him, that is the most, and I think how simple and how great that is. To me, it's going to the beach, I got to say.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't had that therapy in a while. But I shouldn't say that because really off the top of my head, really it's being with my family.
Sure.
I've learned what true joy is to me.
Mm-hmm.
My joy is being with my family. Now, that's not for everybody.
With your family on the beach.
Yeah. Oh,
Look at that
even
one.
better. You get sand in places you don't like. That's another thing.
Sure.
But I have decided that I really don't care. And now that I think about it, where we are, as long as we're together. And you can see discovery in your grandchildren's eyes at the simplest things. We have a new puppy. Well, he's not really new. We've had him 9 months. And he is so much fun, and the kids have so much fun with him. Then my son brought over this big bubble thing. It makes big, huge bubbles. The fun that they had with that little bubble machine. So I think, you find happiness if you realize it's all there, tucked in your heart already. You just have to open it up a little and let it out. How great that is. And timing, your grandfather's plan is awesome.
Yep.
But if we don't prioritize, that won't get us anywhere.
Yep.
Because you've seen people who work really hard and they never get anywhere.
That's right.
It's because they don't prioritize what they need to do.
Good point.
So
You got to have your list, and he didn't quite get to some, and he'll be there tomorrow.
that's right.
So I got to add this. So my son Tate, again, we spent a little more time together the last little while as he's graduating from high school, and he's leaving in 2.5 weeks to go to Uruguay for a
And I got to say, your
mission.
son is awesome. I've known him for 2 years? And when he was a sophomore, I thought he had the brain of a businessman who was 30 years old. And he was a young kid, and he was and you see these things coming out of the kid part. And then you see this adult thing come out of the other side of his head, and you think, wow, how much fun is he?
Well, he and I had a moment together, and this is off the subject, but yet not. He says to me, Dad, I just got done. I think I shared this a while ago with a psychology class, and I loved it. And the professor is a guy who teaches 1 or 2 classes, UVU, Dr. John is what he called him. And Dr. John said, everybody needs to see a therapist every now and again. Now, you and I have labeled that with you only go to a therapy session when you're in the direst of needs. And his comment to the class was, why do we do that? Why do we wait until we're in such trouble before we actually seek out help? And again, I've shared that before. Same thing here is that this is such a fun process of self-discovery that we all need to start. You do need to go to the right place, start in the right way, and be around the right people. That's safe and have questions asked and answered in a certain way. So what would be some tactics, actual, looking for words here, actual things that you do now differently? What we've talked about, one, where you get it done now, that this discovery process is in the forward motion. Give us some advice, tactics that you have found that work for you.
I think one of the things that's really important is to find an encourager, someone who encourages. And you've been that for me, which I appreciate very much. Financially, you've encouraged me, but that has spilled over into other things because of how I looked at it. But to find somebody who you can trust, with your information, whatever it be, and find an encourager. And if you can find the same person for both those things, all the better. Find somebody who's an encouraging to you, because you'll find that will help you discover those things that you've locked tight in there, thinking you can't do it, you can't. We hear I can't, or you need to do, or you get nagged about things that you don't want to do. And I think sometimes it's not we can't do it, we just don't want to, so we say we can't.
Yeah.
When in reality, if you looked at it, maybe through somebody else's eyes, somebody who's an encourager, you find out, yeah, you are capable, and yeah, you can do it, and then it is off your head, which is an amazing, liberating feeling, you know.
And then you started looking through other people's eyes.
Yeah. Because I'd already done that. My mother used to say that if I was around a person who had a problem, there were two people who had a problem shortly. So,
but that's not always positive.
No, it's not.
That's actually the negative way when you're
was.
owning someone's problem.
Yeah.
You got to see the positive route.
Like your grandpa, I learned to shed. If someone, now I've done radio programs before, and people said, "Oh, I didn't like that." Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't own it. I didn't take it home. It just like off a duck's back, and you have to learn how to let it go. And I said something to my son yesterday about something that bothered me, that was way old, an old incident. And he goes, "Mom," and Frozen has helped a lot of kids. That song that says "Let It Go." There's a song in Frozen that says, and I said, "Okay, I've got to let it go." And he goes, "Exactly, Mom." And I thought, I've got a good encourager in my husband, and my son has taken lessons from his dad, and he's a great encourager. And so find people who encourage you.
Yep.
And then learn. I think one of the other things is learning those people who are taking you down. Tell them you love them, and then dismiss them. You've got better things to do, and you don't need to keep going in a round circle. We find somebody who keeps making us spin our wheels. It's time to get out of gear, get into gear, and move down the road.
Yep. I have a friend of mine who is really one of the most kind people I know. And these folks that he surrounds himself with are people who need things, because he's one that likes to help.
So
and it's taken so much from him now that he himself has questions financially that he has to answer.
Oh, golly.
And he's thought things would come about. And so you do have to be careful. You know, people say, well, you know, I'm sure they're good for it. Well, I don't think anyone's really out there to be dishonest. It's just there's
Life
situations
happens.
to avoid. You just got to be careful.
Yeah,
you got to watch out. You got to watch out. That can be some of the hardest, is, you know, trying to trust somebody with your money or trust someone's word. And so, again, the hope for these shows that we've had is that there's plenty of information so that people can hear it. And if it makes sense and it works for you, and then you come with an idea, and then someone can help you walk yourself. And at the end of the day, really when it comes to financial stuff tied to emotions, if you can say, I'm the one that made this decision.
Yep.
I understood and understand the risk. I understand the positives and the negatives to the whole thing. I believe I have been understood and communicated well with. Then those are some tactics that I would recommend to somebody when they're out there looking for the right situation for them to retirement, or even just the daily purchases of life.
Especially to own a home, Tom. Yeah, when we're young, we think, well, if I can't do this, this opportunity will come again. Sometimes we get an opportunity that only will come once in your life. So you need to study it out and weigh it. And things need to have an importance in your life that you realize some things will not come again.
Yeah.
Because if I had known that, if I had known then what I know now, our financial situation would have been a whole different ballgame. Because of some things that we did, because we were dumb. Both of us, we both did dumb things. And a relationship is a give and take process. I mean, I love my husband dearly. He's made some boners, so have I. And we're still together because we've learned to forgive.
You bet.
Maybe we're working on the forgetting part, but we've learned to forgive.
I also, by the way, on the positive side of that, I call that the tuition of life. Meaning most people, if not all, have spent actual money to get an education about the School of Hard Knocks.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you say you've made some decisions, well, I got a couple I could show you as well. But at the end I learned, I'm like, oops, I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
Because you and I are so scared of mistakes, we don't try it. But the best lesson, the best way to understand what not to do is to do it.
No kidding.
Or to be involved, or at least someone close to you do it and go, ooh, that didn't work out. I'll never do that again.
Yeah, that was painful.
And then your education. And really the best time to do it is when you're young.
Yeah, it is, because you have time to
I
overcome it.
personally recommend to a certain level, I guess individual basis, I don't know, but 30 something and under, be a risk taker. Be a calculated risk taker.
Calculate is an interesting word.
Yep.
but
Make sure you weigh both sides. Don't just do it and say, have a plan.
Mhm.
Does it fit in my plan?
This is not Vegas.
This is not Vegas. Don't just roll dice and hope it works out.
Yeah.
Do your study. Talk to people. But be a calculated risk taker as a young person.
Yeah.
I that's what I recommend. Some people doesn't have that in their nature. I understand that.
I get that.
And when you get older, if you are a risk taker, my advice to myself has been, as I've had an opportunity, should I invest in this or should I do that? I say, I think I want to do it. I think the odds are that I probably will come out of it. But if it doesn't, I can lose this and it won't hurt me.
Right.
And so I set a dollar value as something on it. And to be honest with you, the 3 of the 4 big things I've done that with, I've lost. So my percentages aren't good, but there you go.
Well, we've done that too. And my husband he's been one of those who said, okay, if we lose this, can I, like you said, overcome that? And he's always made sure that if we did it, we could, and there are times that saved our bacon.
You bet.
Because he had taken the insurance, so to speak, to make sure we could financially recover if that didn't work out. And so I think that's really important.
I gotta throw this out. This is such a sensitive topic, but I think you'll be okay with it. So last week I asked a question to you, and I said, "Boy, you look good."
Bless your heart.
I said, "Have you lost some weight?"
Yeah.
And you said you've lost
27 pounds
27 pounds
since December, which is also just small things.
Yep.
I don't need that dessert. I don't need that extra piece of bread, whatever. And those little decisions make a big difference as you get down the road.
It's just so funny that if someone thinks you can only talk about money and be mathematical and do equations, there's so many other aspects in life.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just been fun to watch as you have made your own personal decisions and your own discovery and your own process, that who would have known talking about money would lead to losing 27 pounds.
Yeah, I would never have thought they were connected.
But how interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is interesting how that filters into...
Because you have a positive outlook.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at all of the possibilities and you're saying, hey, wait a minute. And it really is. So money, our hour's up. And again, all the new people, isn't it funny how fast it goes?
It goes quick.
It's just how money is tied to emotion. And as soon as we realize that and can have a place to talk about it and talk through it, it's just been fascinating and fun for me to see the discovery that people go through. And I just look and go, how fun. If you want to go on TV and get a weight loss plan, well, let's talk about your money first.
What an interesting approach, Tom.
What an interesting approach. Yeah, the other stuff's too. Well, this is KTNP 1340 AM of Heber City.
There you go.
And this show has been brought to you by Guild Mortgage Company, closing loans and opening doors since 1960. Guild Mortgage Company, NMLS 3274, Equal Housing Lender, Tom Stone, NMLS 257849. The information contained in this training has been prepared and distributed for educational purposes only and do not represent the opinions of Guild Mortgage Company. I'll tell you.
Tom Stone, what was the word after Tom Stone?
I have to give you my NMLS. That's my...
Okay.
I'm a loan officer license, and so it's 257849. I have to disclose that. Nobody cares. No one listens to that
Just
part.
interesting.
But the litigious society we have, that's the little thing I have to say, just in case we said something that someone didn't like.
Oh, well, so sorry.
Well, Sandy, thanks for coming to your own station.
Well, thanks for offering.
It was so much fun, and it is so much fun to see all of the fun things that you're involved in. And I say we do this again in a few months and see what's next, huh?
Hey, that's awesome. Sounds good to me.
Up, forward, and on we go, right?
There you go.
All right. We'll see everybody next week.